Hello football fans, I'm Carlos Vides, Salvadoran journalist. I am in New Zealand and I've made a special video for you about the Kiwis going to the World Cup 2026. I think we can call this team underdogs. Welcome to the video.
From the edge of the world, a nation dared to believe. 29 goals scored, just one conceded. To qualify for their third FIFA World Cup, after 1982 FIFA World Cup and 2010 FIFA World Cup, New Zealand were a storm sweeping across the Pacific. The All-Whites won all 5 of their matches and secured Oceania's direct berth to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the first World Cup to feature 48 national teams. But among those 48 nations, the New Zealand national football team are ranked lowest in the latest FIFA standings. They sit below teams such as Curacao, Cape Verde, and Panama. Will Oceania's champions become the authors of the great underdog story of North America 2026?
I think we're going in there with a hope, but have we been really truly tested as a team? I'm not sure.
These players fully believe, from their experiences at club level, that on their day they can match and even beat much higher ranked opponents.
Oh, I've got no doubt that people sitting in Cairo and sitting in Tehran and sitting in Brussels, all football fans would have been doing cartwheels when the draw was made. They're like, we've got New Zealand, that's fantastic. You know, what do? They play rugby, they play cricket, do they even have a football team, you know? So.
Jason Pine, football commentator and journalist.
My name's Rory Fallon and my role is reserve team coach at Auckland FC.
It's Michael Burgess. I'm the football writer at the New Zealand Herald.
It's certainly shaping as another fantastic World Cup underdog story. It's I guess up to New Zealand now to write that story and to turn it from fiction into fact.
This time, there was no need for an intercontinental playoff to reach the World Cup.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. All you need to go through is beat the island teams and get through to a World Cup. So Oceania have 1.5 spots now. So even if you don't win in Oceania, you get a playoff.
It was a slightly easier path, of course, than previously with an expanded World Cup to 48 teams. New Zealand just had to win the Oceania Confederation and they would make the World Cup, and they did, so that was expected, but I don't think it diluted anything from the fact that this was a major achievement for the team, and they are, I know, looking very much forward to participating in the World Cup in June and who knows, July of this year.
I don't think that you can really look at sort of whereabouts you are in the world. Yeah, Oceania might be a little bit of a, someone might call it a farmers league, but I think that, it's an opportunity for Pacific nations to be able to represent themselves on the big stage. And
the World Cup will be so much more intense, and that's probably for me the biggest test for this team. They haven't played many competitive matches in the last 4 years, and nothing like the pressure they're going to have in North America. So that's the big test and the big question.
I don't think there's any getting away from the fact that it was a much more straightforward path to the World Cup than previously, where New Zealand's had to go through intercontinental playoffs to make World Cups in the past. That was how they qualified in 2010. They weren't able to get through in 2014, 2018 or 2022 through that route.
The rules changed for the better for us, and it helps us to get into more World Cups, because as a small nation, not much money coming through in the game. Going to a World Cup every 4 years and guaranteed World Cup just brings in more money into New Zealand football.
You look at the teams who aren't going to be at the World Cup, and there's no way that you could say that New Zealand are better than some of the teams who aren't going to be there. Italy is a fantastic example, of course, of that. But New Zealand can only do what is placed in front of them. They can only play the teams that they are scheduled to play. So getting through comfortably was the task, and well, apart from a couple of little tense moments in the final of Oceania World Cup qualifying against New Caledonia, I think they achieved their mission pretty well.
Oceania pathway or Asia? Australia has competed in the Asian Football Confederation since 2006. Should New Zealand do the same?
They need to get out of Oceania and go to Asia.
I would love for New Zealand to be in Asia because that would give us proper, really hard games, and I feel like our game would get even better. I feel like our team would get more games, and I feel there'll be more kind of games where everything's on the line. Like every game is like you have to win. Whereas I feel like at the moment, obviously it's a nice path to the World Cup, but is it helping us? I think that we will have to wait and see in this World Cup.
The All Whites dominated Oceania. But would they have qualified if they were competing in another confederation?
I don't know how they made it to the World Cup.
Well, good question. It would be difficult. Obviously, Europe, we know how strong Europe is. We know the good teams in Europe that have missed out, like Italy, Denmark, for example. Africa's crazy. South America's crazy. CONCACAF is so difficult.
I think they would struggle to get out of any of those confederations in terms of the relative standards.
New Zealand is a good team now. This is our best team of our history, but qualifying from another confederation would have been, maybe from Asia, I think it'd be possible. From the other confederations, difficult. Maybe CONCACAF would be possible too, but extremely difficult.
If New Zealand had to qualify through another confederation, it would be a lot harder for them to do. Can only play what's in front of them, and with Oceania handed an automatic qualifying spot, that's what they had to aim for as an Oceania country, and they achieved their goal.
The FIFA rankings place New Zealand at the bottom of the 48 teams heading to the World Cup.
Personally, I think they're ranked too high. I think they're even worse than FIFA ranked them.
The rankings don't mean everything. It's all about who you play, when you play, friendlies, competitive games, so it doesn't mean everything.
I agree with it. They don't play enough competitive matches against big opponents.
The only way from bottom is up, so if we can do better than other teams, then we've done our job.
I think what you get with the FIFA rankings is a snapshot, a moment in time, and also they're largely reliant, those rankings, on getting results against higher ranked teams. So New Zealand qualifying with ease through Oceania did nothing for their world ranking because they were beating teams ranked, a lot further down the rankings than they are, and therefore their ranking couldn't increase as a result.
Yeah, I think people will see that ranking and they'll think, what are New Zealand doing there? And they're going to struggle. That's what people think when they see that ranking. But as I say, the rankings, I think, in this scenario, are very deceptive, because the problem for New Zealand is they only get ranking points when they play competitive matches. So this whole World Cup cycle, they've played something like 25 friendlies against good nations, and you get very few ranking points for that, a little bit. But when you play the competitive matches, you get your ranking points. So it's hard for them to go up in the rankings.
We don't play as many games, so that's a factor as well. So the teams that play the most games get the most points. We hardly play, like, compared to Australia, who get all those Asian games. It's like a full-on league. Europe, the amount of games they play, South America, all these top continents play way more games, and they're the big challenges because of the home and away. Whereas we don't have that. We have friendlies, then we play the islands, and you probably don't get as many points beating the islands. I wouldn't kind of count us out because we were lowly situated as well in 2010, and kind of we showed that we could kind of foot it with the big boys.
It feels to me as though once you get below about 40 on the world rankings, you're really then starting to get teams that aren't that far apart, really.
Realistically, they are somewhere between, I would say, 50 and 65 in the rankings, whereas other confederations, they play a lot of matches, and perhaps the rankings get a bit inflated. If you're thinking about confederations like Asia or CONCACAF, where the rankings can be a bit higher than their true level.
We played Chile and played really well. Got the win there. First time, we'd beaten a South American side. So I think that, that's a good showing of what we've got. And I think, rankings, when it comes to it in the World Cup, numbers don't really matter. It's who turns up on the day. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how they go.
And Chile are ranked 55th in the world compared to New Zealand being 85th in the world at that time. And yet New Zealand came away from that game with a 4-1 victory. So it just goes to show that the FIFA rankings can give you a snapshot, but they won't always give you an accurate representation of what a game between two teams who may be far apart on the rankings may look like. And I guess that's what encourages New Zealand football fans, is that in a one-off game against higher-ranked opponents, they can still do something special.
Oh, I think we'll have to wait and see. I think the World Cup is one of those competitions that, anything can happen. So we'll just have to wait and see.
At the World Cup, New Zealand will open against Iran. Then they will face Egypt, led by Mohamed Salah. They will close the group against Belgium, one of Europe's traditional powers.
Now you've mentioned the group, then I think they have no hope.
Maybe a draw against Egypt and a win against one of the Iran, maybe. I'll just be happy if we can win a game. I'll be even happier if we make it out the group stage.
It could be anything. I mean, you don't want to go to the last match against Belgium needing points. That makes things very hard. You need to have points before you get to Belgium because Belgium, world number 8, we know how good they are. Maybe not as good as they were in 2018, but they're still an amazing team.
You just have to be one of the 8 best third-place finishers to go through. 4 points should be enough to get you through. 3 points might even be enough, depending on goals and goal difference and that sort of thing. But I think New Zealand have to target 4 points.
Obviously, you got Egypt, which, you got a top striker up front, and then Iran, who's not, they're not pushovers either. So those 2 games are going to be difficult, but I feel like the team could get something out of those games. It's not beyond it's not impossible.
I think most people feel, and I certainly do, that the first match is key. Iran is key because they're the team that you look at and think, okay, New Zealand can get a result here. Egypt is a very good team, consistently one of the best African teams. You could maybe hope for a draw there, but to imagine New Zealand beating Egypt, it's certainly possible, but it would take an amazing performance. So yeah, the first 2 matches are key, but particularly the opening match.
And I think in their favour, they don't play Belgium until last. So they can put full focus into Iran and Egypt, and the Belgium game almost becomes a bit of a free hit because all going well, I'm sure their plan is to accumulate the 4 points before they get to Belgium, because if you get to Belgium and you've only picked up 1 point from your first 2 games and you're faced with the prospect of having to beat a side of that calibre to go through to the round of 32, then I think you're really up against it. On any given day, Belgium are going to have far too much for New Zealand.
Belgium, I think that's going to be a difficult test. But people, when we played in our World Cup, people were expecting Italy to beat us 4-0, 5-0. That's what the feeling was. Like, these guys have got no chance. So nothing's impossible. It's really down to the players of really if they truly believe that they can do it as a team.
I think everybody else in the group, Belgium, Egypt and Iran, are delighted to have New Zealand in their group. They see it as as 3 points straight away.
I'm expecting New Zealand always to be the most competitive that they've ever been. I think the players they have at the moment are playing at the best level that we've had in a long time in New Zealand. So
New Zealand will be underdogs in all 3 matches. They won't be the favourites. Everyone will expect Iran to win, definitely expect Egypt, and Belgium, it won't even be a contest. That's what people will think. But New Zealand will quite enjoy being underdogs. It'll suit them. No one will expect too much. They can surprise. They have the players. They certainly have the mentality to do it. So I can see them qualifying for the next stage, maybe in 3rd place.
They'll be putting a lot of focus on that first match against Iran. And, given the geopolitical situation, Iran, I'm sure, will have a very disrupted build-up. Can New Zealand take advantage of that? It's not a football advantage, but who knows what might play out and what might be playing on the minds of those Iran players. Egypt is a very interesting proposition. We know Mohamed Salah, what a world superstar he is, but I think of the other teams in the group, they're the lowest ranked apart from New Zealand. So maybe there's an opportunity there.
I think they may get a surprise victory and hopefully progress.
Among the all-white standout players, Chris Wood is clearly their most important figure.
Chris Wood is going to score 15 goals. Chris Wood is going to win the Ballon d'Or.
Well, I think the main man for New Zealand is their captain, Chris Wood.
Woodsy playing, like being the top goal scorer.
He's playing in the Premier League. He's just come back from a long injury layoff with Nottingham Forest, but back in time, we hope anyway. We keep our fingers crossed for full participation at the World Cup. Chris Wood is undoubtedly our most important player.
After Chris Wood, I would definitely say Libby Kikachi.
Libby Kikachi, a tireless left back who loves getting forward. He's got an absolutely magnificent engine.
The first New Zealander to play in Serie A for Empoli, played about 80 games for them, was amazing.
Eli Just at Motherwell in Scotland.
Marko Stamenic,
who's playing for Swansea. You know, he's at a great level.
Marko Stamenic is another one who is just a terrific prospect for New Zealand.
He's already played in Denmark, in Serbia, and in Greece, and he's won championship medals in all three countries. He's still only 23 or 24, but he's won medals in all those three countries. He's played in the Champions League.
Joe Bell, a defensive midfielder who plays his club football for Viking in Norway.
Ryan Thomas. He's been in Europe a long time. He went to Europe in 2013 to Holland. One of the first players really to go to Europe of this generation. He's been at Pek Zola most of that time, but he's also played for PSV Eindhoven. But on the ball, he is our most technical player.
So we've got players that are playing at good levels. From 2010 to now, the game's completely changed. And there was a lot of players in that stadium that watched that Bahrain game are playing for our New Zealand team now. So the inspiration of what our team brought, I think it brought a kind of wider perspective of and a wider awareness of the game's getting better.
2010 was a history-making tournament for New Zealand with the 3 draws, the unbeaten campaign, and that team came home from South Africa with their heads held high and to something of a hero's welcome, really, because nobody expected them to do what they did against much higher-ranked opponents, the likes of Italy, Slovakia, Paraguay, the 3 teams that they secured draws with at that World Cup. But the fact remains, it wasn't enough to get them out of the group.
It's a completely different era. It's very difficult to compare.
If you compare that to the mindset of the current team, they have as their absolute goal getting out of this group, winning football matches at a World Cup, not just drawing them, and getting out of this group.
I mean, that generation, that was a miracle what happened in South Africa, as you say. New Zealand was going there, we were thinking, hoping maybe get a point, but to get 3 points and to avoid defeat, incredible. They were close to qualifying if they had got a win against Paraguay.
The New Zealand side of 2026 is a lot more comfortable in possession than a lot of their predecessors were. They don't want to just sit back, soak up pressure, and look to hit teams on the break. That is no longer the way that New Zealand plays football. They're not going to park a bus in front of goal and hope to nick something at the other end. They want to play their style of football, a possession-based style.
I'm just talking about my team in 2010. We truly believe that we could get results against these teams.
This group is much more skillful, much more talented. They can play a lot more football, but do they have that same resilience? That is a big question around this group because they haven't been tested in this kind of arena. So I feel like if the 2026 team can replicate the spirit and the fight and the grit of 2010, then we could be going places.
If we look at what their footballing philosophy is, Darren Bazley likes playing a flat back 4. He's not a fan of a back 3 with wing backs. He's very much a back 4 type of coach, and he has shown on many occasions during his time as coach that he's not afraid to be an attack-minded coach. And I guess this is the evolution of the New Zealand team. If we look back to the team that went to the World Cup in 2010, that was based very much on being difficult to beat, hard to break down.
Around 2010, there wasn't many pros. Like there'd probably been, 15 pros, maybe 20 pros, whereas now there's probably over 60.
That team was very special though. They certainly weren't as talented as this year's team, They didn't have as many players playing in Europe, so not as technically good, but had an amazing spirit that had been together a long time, a lot of senior players, a lot of leaders, and a real grit about them. They were so hard to score against, they were so hard to get past. That's what made them special.
The main difference between the team in 2010 and the team in 2026 is that mindset, that there is now a belief, a really strong belief within the side that they can do something special. They're not happy just to have honourable defeats or honourable draws anymore, because that will probably send them home before the knockout stages. These players want to go as far as they possibly can in this tournament and make some history for New Zealand as the first ever team to get out of a group at a Senior Men's World Cup.
You know, we're going into it not scared. You know, we know we're on our day, if everything goes our way, you know, and we perform, that we can compete and we can get results.
This team is different. This team has skill. This team has flair. They love to keep possession. They have a nice style. So it's been really refreshing the last few years to watch this team. You watch the team against good nations and you're like, wow, these guys can play. This is great.
The football now is probably more passing orientated, whereas when we played, we were quite robust, quite tough. We knew our strengths, we knew our weaknesses, and probably football wasn't as good looking as what the lads are playing now. Does that convert into wins or draws into a World Cup? I don't know. Only time will tell.
They have the opportunity to write a pretty impressive chapter in our sporting history, in our football history. They are the underdogs. In many ways, the pressure is off externally anyway. Nobody in the footballing world really is expecting New Zealand to do anything at this World Cup. There's a quiet confidence within this group that they are good enough to be on the same stage as the teams that they're going to be taking on, that they aren't, you know, some backwater on the football globe, that they are worth their place at this World Cup. And while, you know, they have that belief, there'll also be that combination of the other teams perhaps underestimating exactly what they can bring to a football pitch over 90 minutes.
I think a lot of people are not sure. I think people are sitting on the fence. There's some people saying, no, we're not going to win a game. But I feel like there's enough in that team to get a result. Whether we get through the next round, I don't know. It's just so unpredictable.
New Zealand football is a team that is going to surprise you at this World Cup.